Chapter 9, Disinfection. Learning objectives. As a result of successfully completing this chapter, readers will be able to 1. Define the term of disinfection and explain how disinfection differs from sterilization. 2. Explain disinfection levels as identified in the Spaulding classification system, which are low-level disinfection, intermediate-level disinfection, and high-level disinfection. 3. Provide basic information about the types of disinfectants commonly used in healthcare facilities, which are quaternary ammonia compounds, alcohol, phenolics, chlorine, iodophors, glutaraldehyde, orthofildehyde, hydrogen peroxide, and peracetic acid. 4. Identify good work practices for manual disinfection process. 5. Discuss automated equipment utilization for disinfection and the good work practices for working with automated disinfection process. And finally, 6. Explain disinfection quality assurance practices. Introduction. Once an item has been properly cleaned, there are some decisions to make. Is the item safe for its intended use, or does it need further processing? If further processing is needed, what type of processing does it need, and how can that be accomplished? See Figure 9.1. Central service technicians must be able to identify the type of bactericidal process, sterilization or disinfection, select the method that will provide the process, and perform the process effectively. Sterilization process are examined in later chapters. This process will provide basic information on disinfectants and disinfecting process that are frequently used in the CS department. Introduction to disinfectants. The Spaulding classification system. The selection of a disinfectant must be based in part upon the intended use of the device and the degree of disinfectants required for the device. The Spaulding classification system divides patient care items into 3 categories, each based on the degree of risk of infection when the items are used in patient care. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation, AAMI or AMI, use the Spaulding classification system in their guidelines and standards. See Figure 9.2. The 3 Spaulding categories are as follows. Critical items. Instruments or objects introduced daily into the bloodstream or into other sterile areas of the body. Examples include surgical items, cardiac catheters and implants. These items must be sterilized before use. Disinfection is inadequate. Semi-critical items. Although these items come in contact with the intact mucous membrane, they do not ordinarily penetrate the body's surface. Examples include non-invasive flexible fiber optic endoscopes, endotracheal tubes, anesthesia breathing circuits as examples. Semi-critical items should be subject to a high-level disinfectant process that can be expected to destroy all microbial organisms, but not necessarily microbial spores. Non-critical items. These items usually come in direct contact with the patient's unbroken skin. Examples include crutches and countertops. These items require thorough cleaning and in some cases, low-level disinfection to intermediate-level disinfection. Definitions. Bactericidal, relating to the destruction of bacteria. Sterilization, the process by which all forms of microbial life, including bacteria, viruses, spores, and fungi, are completely destroyed. Disinfection, the destruction of nearly all pathogenic microorganisms on an inanimate object, which is a non-living surface. Disinfectant, a chemical that kills most pathogenic organisms but does not kill all spores. Spaulding classification system, a system developed by Dr. E.H. Spaulding that divides medical devices into categories based on the risk of infection involved in their use. Sterile or sterilization, completely devoid of all living microorganisms. High-level disinfection, the destruction of all vegetative microorganisms, microbacterium, small non-lipid viruses, medium or lipid viruses, fungal spores, and some bacterial spores. Low-level disinfection, the destruction of vegetative forms of bacteria, some fungi, and lipid viruses, but not bacteria spores. Intermediate level disinfection, the destruction of viruses, microbacteria, fungi, and vegetative bacteria, but not bacterial spores. There is no single disinfectant that will work for all situations. That is why every decontamination area has more than one disinfectant to choose from in the work area. CS technicians must be able to select the appropriate disinfectant for the job. To do so, a basic understanding of the different types of disinfectants is needed. Understanding chemicals. Central service professionals work with a wide variety of chemicals every day. While the disinfectants used in healthcare facility may be a type of disinfectant, they all work differently to perform some different tasks. CS technicians understand the different disinfectants they work with and know how to achieve desired results. Types of disinfectants. The term disinfection is a generic term that is used to describe a process. Within that process are products that perform at different levels. See figure 9.3. The following is a review of common disinfection used in healthcare facilities and the level or type of disinfection they are designed to provide. Low-level and intermediate-level disinfectants. Items requiring low-level or intermediate-level disinfection only come in contact with intact skin. These items usually only touch the outside of the body. This includes items like crutches and countertops. These disinfectants may also be used on hard environmental surfaces and some mobile equipment. This group of disinfectants commonly includes quaternary ammonia compounds, alcohols, phenolics, chlorines, and iodophores. These low-level or intermediate-level disinfectants have one important thing in common. The germicidal action of each is reduced by the presence of organic materials. See figure 9.4. I'm going to read figure 9.4. Summary of quats. Advantages. Bactericidal, fungicidal, and virucidal against lipophilic viruses. Wetting agents with built-in detergent properties. Disadvantages. Non-sporicidal. Generally not tuberculocidal or virucidal against hydrophilic viruses unless multiple compounds are included. May be inactivated, absorbed, or neutralized by cotton or charcoal. Non-compatible with soap. Not effective against some gram-negative organisms commonly found in hospitals. Deactivated by organic material. Uses. Environmental sanitation of non-critical surfaces such as floors, walls, and furniture. If multiple compounds in solution, a superquat may be used on instruments if properly rinsed. Must remain wet on surfaces to be disinfected 6 to 10 minutes, according to the manufacturer's instructions for use. Definition. Organic materials. Compounds containing oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen derived from living organisms, organic matter, in the form of serum, blood, pus, or fecal material can interfere with the activity of these disinfectants. Quaternary ammonia compounds. Quaternary ammonia compounds, as I just read in the summary of quats, highlighted in blue, which is 9.5, are low-level disinfectants. The most common chemical in most quats is benzyl canomium chloride. Quats are incompatible with soap. Soaps are not recommended for use in the CS decontamination process because of the residues they leave behind. Some quats are absorbed by materials such as cotton and filter paper. A quat that is absorbed by cotton should not be used with cotton towels, cloths, or mop pads. It is important to consult the specific quats instructions for use to determine if the cotton and/or paper can be used with them. Again, figure 9.5 reviews the basic information about quats highlighted in blue at the bottom of page 164. Chapter 9, Part 2. Alcohol. Alcohol can be used as both an antiseptic and a disinfectant. Both ethyl and isopropyl rubbing alcohol have good disinfecting properties. One of the challenges when using alcohol as a disinfectant is that to achieve a reasonable level of disinfection, the alcohol must remain in wet contact with the surface or object being disinfected for a minimum of 5 minutes. Alcohol evaporates quickly, and maintaining wet contact for an extended period of time can be difficult. In figure 9.6 above, highlighted in blue, reviews basic information about alcohol. I'm going to read you figure 9.6, summary of ethyl and isopropyl alcohol. Advantages. Rapid bactericidal agents against vegetative microorganisms, tuberculocidal, fungicidal, and virucidal. Ethyl isopropyl is not effective against hydrophilic viruses. Fast acting, no residue, and non-staining. Disadvantages. Requires wet contact of at least 5 minutes to achieve a reasonable level of disinfection. No residual activity. Volatile, flammable. Inactivated by organic material. Can dissolve lens mountings or certain optical instruments. Tends to harden and swell plastic tubing, including polyethylene. And non-sporicidal. Uses. To disinfect fixed equipment after cleaning and for patient use items such as ear specula, stethoscopes, etc. And can be used as a drying agent. Antiseptic or disinfectant. Antiseptics are used on living tissue such as skins, for example, receiving an alcohol prep before an annual flu shot. Disinfectants are used on inanimate objects, for example, disinfecting a piece of equipment between uses. Phenolics. Phenolics are an intermediate level or low level disinfectant containing phenol, which has a long history of use. During the 1800s, Dr. Joseph Lister used phenol to develop aseptic surgical techniques. Phenolic compounds have long been the agent of choice for housekeeping services because a residual phenolic film is left after use, and that film could be reactivated later by damp mopping. However, the same residual film can be a problem when left on medical devices. For example, irritation of sensitive skin can occur after exposure of phenolic residues. Like all disinfectants for maximum disinfectant effectiveness, phenolics require a specific time for wet contact. Figure 9.7 reviews the basic information about phenolics. I'm going to jump to the next page and review on page 166, figure 9.7, summary of phenolic. Advantages. Broad spectrum of use. Bactericidal for gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria, fungicidal and tuberculocidal, active against lipophilic viruses. Residual activity. Note, this can also be a disadvantage. Disadvantages. Non-sporicidal, inactivated by organic material but less than some other disinfectants. Corrosive to some plastics. Uses. Housekeeping usage for walls, floors, countertops, and furnishings. Phenolics are used in the decontamination area for disinfection of hard surfaces. Copious rinsing is required to eliminate the potential for skin burns. Back to page 165. Stainless steel instruments should not be subjected to strong phenolics for a prolonged period of time because phenolics can be corrosive. Some plastics also react poorly to phenolics. Follow the device manufacturer's instruction for use for the types of materials that can withstand disinfectant and phenolics. Chlorine. Chlorine is an intermediate level disinfectant that is commonly used for the treatment of water and sewage. Chlorine, a member of the halogen family, may be found in CS departments as a hypochlorite solution, often recommended for biohazard cleanup procedures. However, chlorine is not considered a disinfectant of choice for CS due to its corrosive qualities. Metal instruments subjected to chlorine may have their finishes damaged by exposure to chlorine solution. Figure 9.8 at the bottom of page 166 reviews the basic information about chlorine. I'm now going to go to figure 9.8, highlighted in blue, and read the summary of chlorine. Summary of chlorine. Advantages. Effective against gram-positive and gram-negative vegetative microorganisms, tuberculocidal, fungicidal, and virucidal. Fast acting. Disadvantages. Inactivated by organic matter, corrosive to metals, non-sporicidal, stains fabric, plastics, and other synthetic materials, relatively unstable. Uses. Widely used for disinfection of dialysis machines, hydrotherapy baths, toilets, lavatories, and bathtubs. Also used as a bleach for laundry and as a sanitizer for dishwashing. A 1 to 10 dilution of 5.25% sodium hypochlorite has been recommended by the CDC for cleaning blood spills. Must remain wet on items to be disinfected 1 to 2.5 minutes, and check the manufacturer's instruction for use. Iodophores. Iodophores are buffered iodines that are also members of the halogen family. Like alcohol, iodophores are used both as antiseptics and disinfectants. The best known and most widely used iodophore is povidone iodine. Iodophores can stain both skin and patient equipment. Iodophores should not be used in surgical instruments. Figure 9.9 summarizes basic information about iodophores. On the bottom of page 167, highlighted in blue, is figure 9.9, summary of iodophores, which I'm going to read. Summary of iodophores. Advantages. Bactericidal, virucidal, and tuberculocidal. Rapid action against vegetative bacteria. Disadvantages. Corrosive to metals unless combined with an anti-corrosive agent when formulated. Detrimental to some plastics. Stains fabric and other materials. May require long contact time to kill some fungus. Uses. Used in skin preparations. Disinfection of some equipment. The corrosive nature of iodine on metals and some plastics limits its use as a primary disinfectant in central service, and must remain wet on items to be disinfected for at least 2 minutes. Check the manufacturer's instructions for use. Glutaraldehyde. Glutaraldehyde is a high-level disinfectant, or HLD, used for semi-critical devices such as endoscopes and ultrasonic probes. Glutaraldehyde is compatible with materials used in many modern medical devices and can be used to process medical devices containing heat-sensitive materials. It kills microorganisms by alkylation of proteins. Glutaraldehyde is usually a clear liquid that turns color when activated. See figure 911 for an example. And it has a sharp, pungent odor. It is a strong irritant to the skin, eyes, and respiratory system. Nitrile or butyl gloves and face and eye protection should be used when working with glutaraldehyde. Following immersion in a glutaraldehyde solution, instructions for rinsing items should be carefully followed to ensure the chemical is completely removed. Care must be taken to ensure that this item is not recontaminated. Glutaraldehyde should be used in a separate designated area. Any room where glutaraldehyde is used should be well ventilated with a minimum of 10 air exchanges per hour. When a dedicated area is not available, glutaraldehyde disinfection may be performed at an enclosed workstation. These self-contained workstations manage airflow and reduce exposure to fumes. Figure 9.12 shows some examples of these stations. Unused glutaraldehyde solution should be stored in a cool, secure location in a tightly closed, properly marked containers labeled with the activation date. Definitions. Alkylation. A chemical reaction where hydrogen is replaced with an alkyl group. This causes the cell to be unable to normally metabolize or reproduce, or both. Activated or activation. Process by which a solution is combined with an activating chemical before use. Glutaraldehydes must be activated before initial use. Glutaraldehyde-based products can be used in automated or manual high-level disinfectant process. Most glutaraldehyde-based instruments disinfectants are labeled for reuse for 14 to 28 days. During the recommended reuse period, the concentration of glutaraldehyde in the solution should be tested with test strips recommended by the manufacturer. If the solution fails below its minimum recommended concentration, MEC, if it falls below its MEC level, it should be discarded, regardless of how many days the solution has been in use. Glutaraldehyde vapors increase whenever the solution is agitated, such as when it is poured into or dumped out of a soaking bin. Exposure levels for CS technicians during disposal can be reduced by adding a glutaraldehyde neutralizing agent to the solution prior to disposal. Consult state and local requirements and manufacturer's instructions for use for proper disposal measures.